Hey, what's going on, social media world? All right, this is a response video to John Doe, who left a response on my video talking about, do we always exclusively date the race of person that we're most attracted to, or the look of person that we're most attracted to? And within his response, one of the points that he made was that people are often attracted to, for example, a heterosexual woman will often be attracted to men that look like her father, or a heterosexual man will often be attracted to women who look like their mother. And an example that he gave was one of his friends, boy and girl, product of an interracial couple. The girl grew up to like men that look like the father, who's a black guy. So she grew up to like dark skinned men, while the boy grew up to like women who look like the mother. So he grew up to like white women. And that was his point as it relates to that. And I feel as though there might be some truth in that. I appreciate you not using words like always and never and stuff like that. But I appreciate your saying that there might be some validity to that. And there might be. To that, I will add or encompass around that the fact that I believe people are products of their environment. And what that made me think of was my attraction as my sexuality was developing. Because as much as we love Lady Gaga, Born This Way, sexuality develops over time. You don't pop out of the womb and you're like, oh, I like vagina. Oh, but I like penis. You know, like that. That's not how it works. But as my sexuality was developing and I was thinking about like what I'm attracted to and stuff like that, I lived in upstate New York. I spent the first part of my upbringing in upstate New York. And anybody who knows anything about upstate New York knows that it's totally not New York City. I was born in New York City, lived there till I was 4. But upstate New York is not New York City. And in the majority of my social circles, I was often the only black kid. And while I lived up there, my concept of beauty was the blonde-haired white woman with the long blonde flowing hair. I guess that might have been a sign of the homosexualness to begin with, because I like the long flowing hair that you could French braid and stuff like that. Anyway, but that was my concept of beauty. That, like, I remember on, what was that show? Charles in Charge. I used to love like the older sister because she had the beautiful long blonde hair and she is a white woman and all of that stuff. But I also loved Brandy. But that's when my mom found out about my crush on Brandy, she loved her. She's like, oh, yes, yeah, Brandy, yes, you're going to marry her. That's great. You know, I'm kidding, kind of. But y'all know how it is. But, but anyway, that was my concept of beauty then. But then when I was 13 years old, we moved to New Orleans, Louisiana. And by the time we moved to New Orleans, Louisiana, I had kind of already started to realize that I liked men. And during my time in upstate New York, that transferred from liking blonde-haired white women with long blonde hair to liking white men. And I remember one of my friends who I was really attracted to. And he was like, okay, so we moved to New Orleans, Louisiana. And anybody who knows anything about New Orleans. So for me, moving from upstate New York to New Orleans, Louisiana was like moving to the big city. And it was also my first time being around black people. Not only my first time being around black people, being around mostly black people to, in some cases, only black people, depending on where I was. And I realized that my sexuality attraction started to change when we lived there. And, well, not started to change, it changed immediately, because that's kind of what's all that was around. And I remember I'm sorry, you guys, but I'm going to admit this. You know how in gym class, like they made you wear like booty shorts? Like I used to love sitting in class because in this particular gym class, they had like a horseshoe shape and we were all around. So you could see everybody like in front of you. And I wonder how obvious this was. It was probably really obvious. I know I was skank in 7th grade. I'm sorry, you guys. Gosh, I'm trying. I was trying to develop my sexuality. I used to love staring at the legs of the guys in that class because they'd make us wear like these super high shorts, and I would just be like, just staring like all day. I'm sorry, you guys. I know. I'm sorry, but I couldn't help it. Anyway, so my idea of beauty started to change. And also I remember, because it took me a while to even personally accept that I like guys. But the women that I was attracted to were, like the dark-skinned sisters. Like I remember this one girl, she had this short, like short and sassy always go together. Sorry, it just happens. But she had like this short cut, and she was a fox. You know what I mean? So like my concept of beauty changed then. And then I went to college in DC. My concept of beauty was still kind of the same because I went to Howard, and anybody who knows Howard is an HBCU. So I was still pretty much in the same environment, just different people. But then after graduation, I moved to Baltimore. Baltimore is a beautiful place. I love it. It's so diverse racially, like everywhere, like in the working class community, you have a fair mix of black and white people all living together, next door neighbors. And in the middle class community, you have a fair mix of black and white people living all together, next door neighbors. In the upper middle class community, you have a fair mix of people, black and white, living all together. Baltimore is just beautiful. And I realized after living there that my concept of beauty started to change again to being a more universal look. Moving to Baltimore was a very eye-opening experience for me. The people are much more laid back. It's just a beautiful city, a beautiful environment. And I realized that my sexual attraction started to change there too. Like I started to then go back to not only liking black people and being attracted to black guys, because by the time I moved to Baltimore, I was like, I already accepted it. But I'm not only being attracted to black guys, but also being attracted to white guys as well. So it's interesting. All of that to say, to bring it full circle back to John Doe's point, I think that it also has to do with the fact that we are all a product of our environment, and our environment plays a very big role in what we're attracted to as well, because it plays a role in what is around us. Anyway, what do y'all think? Comment, rate, subscribe. Comment, rate, thumbs up, subscribe. Thanks. Talk to y'all later. Peace. Be blessed.